I would like to I would like to welcome Thai members from partner chapters and across the world, from other chapters, guests, and all watching this live on various online platforms. Tax withholding, we call it the TDS. Tax withholding, or also known as tax retention, or pay as you go, pay as you earn, is income tax paid to the government by the payer of the income rather than by the recipient of the income. In majority of jurisdictions, salaries, interest, dividend, and other similar income are subject to withholding taxes. However, Indian withholding tax, or TDS as it is widely known, is much more and far beyond that. Added to that, the same few years ago, TCS, the tax collection as source, is something probably very unique to India as well. A chairman of a PSU bank told me a few years ago that the ease and process of TDS in India since 2005 is solely responsible for a 1% GDP growth year on year, as that has helped grow the tax base and collections also. But some of the recent provisions of TDS and TCS seems to have touched all businessmen, especially when buyers or sellers starting to ask about our turnovers or whether we have filed our ITRs for the past 2 years or not. These were not heard of earlier in the past. And not only they are shocking, but they also make us uncomfortable. It also started to question the ease of doing business, but we are sure there are valid reasons and checks and balances to address those concerns by the department. We have graduated from considering TDS to be a cost several years ago, and now we are used to it. We say, yeah, TDS काट लो, कोई problem नहीं, it will come as a refund. To address these concerns, TRAI Rajasthan presents you a session on new tax collection and deduction provisions with a very distinguished panel with a very senior IRS officer coupled with another panelist who is an authority on taxation. Let me introduce our panelists for today. Dr. Vidanshu Tripathi, IRS. He's the Additional Commissioner of Income Tax TDS Vadodara, Gujarat. Dr. Tripathi is a senior IRS officer of 2005 batch, presently designated as Additional Commissioner of TDS, Baroda, Gujarat. He has been on important positions in the department at key economic hubs of New Delhi and Gujarat earlier. Dr. Tripathi, welcome to this session. Mr. Sanjay Jhawar, one second. Mr. Sanjay Jhawar, he's the founding and managing partner of Chiramrit Legal LLP, a lawyer by profession and a qualified chartered accountant. Sanjay ji has an experience of spanning 30 years in the field of commercial and business laws. He's a master of laws from global renowned Columbia University, New York, in global business laws. He has successfully litigated on domestic and international taxation, commercial laws, and transfer pricing before tax tribunals, high courts, and Supreme Court, and has several landmark judgments to his credit. Additionally, he has advised various family businesses, corporate clients, and advise on succession planning of families and business houses. We also have Ms. Nikki Jamtani, who is an associate partner taxation of Chiramrit Legal LLP. Ms. Jamtani is a qualified chartered accountant heading the direct tax advisory division of Chiramrit Legal LLP Jaipur. Her experience in the firm majorly includes handling end-to-end direct taxation, advisory, and litigation, including drafting of legal opinions, advising clients, transfer pricing, corporate restrictions, and so on and so forth. Please welcome Dr. Tripathi, Mr. Sanjay Jhawar, and Ms. Nikki Jamtani to the session. So I'll just share the format for the session. I'll hand over this session now to Mr. Sanjay Jhawar. Please raise your question. We have got some questions before on the direct message as well. People who want to raise the question can type the question in the Q&A sessions at the bottom of the Q&A. We'll take up the questions at the end of the presentation by Sanjay ji and Ms. Nikki. Over to you, Sanjay ji. Welcome to you.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi Modani. And I have the privilege of having this kind of panel today at the TAI Rajasthan. I know that other TAI members are also there in today's presentation. So before we take up and we start discussion on TDS and TCS, I would like to give a 5 minutes background to you as to why do we have these provisions at all and what is the genesis of these provisions. And let us have some numbers and some terms with us, and let us start discussion on that. Do you all know that out of the total population of the country, which is about 139 crore, the total return filers are just 6 crore. Now, this is the breakup of return filers. And out of 139 crore, 6 crore are the returns. And these returns are not only the returns of individuals, they include the returns of companies and trust and everyone. And see the numbers here. The numbers are in lakhs. So you would find that the number, if we exclude the number of charitable trust, if we exclude the number who are not paying taxes, then it is about only 1% of our population which is paying taxes. So we must know where from these provisions are coming. Coming to the next slide. Now, you must all know these terms, which are the background, why these provisions have come. Income tax department does not now function as traditionally as it used to function before 20 years or 15 years. Now, you must know that what is behind income tax department, how it functions, and why there are some provisions. And INTRAC is a very important wing of the income tax department now, Income Tax Transaction Analysis Center. Now, you all know we are in the age of big data. And this is the wing of the income tax department which collects the data, collates the data, reconciles the data, applies the data analytics tools, its own softwares, and even tracks the social media. Even tracks the social media or Facebook of the persons, who are highlighting which country they have visited recently. Now, all that data is being compiled here. And it is this division, very important division of income tax department, which is a kind of a part of back office, which gives some astonishing figures. It says that while taxpayers in the country are only 1.5 crore, but the vehicles registered in the country are more than 35 crore. So more than 35 crore persons are driving four-wheelers, whereas only 1.5 crore persons are paying taxes. So that's very, very important, this data analysis by INTRAC. We must also know CMCPC, Compliance Management Centralized Processing Center, which pushes all the taxpayers to submit data. Whosoever is not furnishing data, not submitting data, the work of CMCPC is to push them to submit the data so that they have the data for analysis and collation. We must also know the third term, which is very important, and this time it has come in the income tax law also, risk management strategy. All this data analytics of the department, you must have heard government saying that now we are changing the system. We have changed the system. Now we believe that the taxpayers are generally honest. Instead of a presumption of dishonesty, now they have a presumption of honesty. And they say that why we are able to do that, we would like that taxpayers make self-compliance. They make compliance by themselves without the need of any kind of scrutiny. And you might have seen and you might have observed that they have shifted the focus from the scrutiny of the kind it used to be there. There are hardly scrutiny notices in last 2 years. They have reduced that number. Instead of that, they have increased the number of reopening and scrutiny based on the specific information, because now they have the benefit of that kind of information. And the information they can reconcile from your bank account through data analytics, and also they can do that reconciliation from your GST. So GST and income tax, they can reconcile what data, what turnover you are filing in GST and what turnover you are filing in income tax, they are able to now reconcile. So that is all kind of data which comes to the income tax department and passes through the data analytics, passes through the risk management strategy of the government, and they receive the information through that. They receive the flags. Risk management strategy raises the red flags about the assessees that this person has done this particular thing, and based on that red flag, the cases are reopened. And you might have noted that reopening used to be very, very tough based on reasons to believe in income tax. But now, from this budget, from the last amendment to the Income Tax Act, they have made it very easy, because they will not be scrutinizing the cases in general. Instead of that, whenever they get a red flag through that their data analytics system and the risk management strategy, then they'll be reopening of the cases. And there are thousands and thousands of 148 reopening notices received by the assessees during this period. Because of the COVID, the notices are delayed. There are many persons who would be receiving the notices in next 3, 4, 5 months. And the reason is they have a specific information that you have done transactions in these shares, or there is a penny stock transaction, we are aware of this, or there was a client code modification, or there was this particular real estate transaction where the deed was changed. So they have that specific kind of information, or you had deposit in the bank account, which is abnormal to the normal behavior of your bank account. And you must also know that India is a master in exchange of information, and more than US and Western countries, India is engaged and involved in exchange of information with other countries. And there is a EOIR, exchange of information on request, which is 2009 agreement or kind of commitment between nations. There are 160 signatories to this nation, that whosoever demands information from another country, they have to share it. India is a signatory to that. And from that, they have now moved to AEOI, automatic exchange of information. Now, what does that mean? If India has sensitive information about an assessee who has lakhs of his transaction in Singapore or maybe UK or maybe US, now if you are committed to AEOI, then you have to share that information automatically without the demand from the other nation. So that's an obligation cast on the nations, and you would find that India is considered to be there at the top in sharing the information and also in collecting the information. And that gives the perspective to us why the information is being collected and why I'm giving this background to you, because GST and as a precursor to all this, GST, we also should understand very well that why GST is called one country, one tax. It's not called one country, one tax because there is many people say that there is a state GST also. Why this is called one country, one tax? The important thing is the sharing of information has become easier with GST. The earlier regime, pre-GST, there used to be VAT server of the state where information regarding trader was being stored. All of you know that manufacturer were within the domain of indirect taxes even before GST. So their information was with the central government. And income tax information is with the central government. So those servers could share the information. But it was difficult to share the information with the state servers because that was with the VAT Department of States. And if the trader, suppose some trader does a fake billing, suppose in the state of Orissa, there is a fake bill, but that information about that trader and his trading activity was in the server of Orissa government and not with the central government. With GST, what has been done is, although there is provision of state GST and central GST, but now there is a common server which is called GSTN. And on the one hand, you have entire trading information stored on GST information, manufacturing, trading, indirect tax, all kind of customs, all information is there on GST server. On the other hand, you have income tax server, which has the information about the incomes of the person. And these two servers, both of them are PAN-based and they can interact with each other and information can be dynamically retrieved from them, reconciled from them, and it can be checked whether any red flag has to be raised. And that gives rise to the present TDS provisions, because now they have more information about traders from GST portal, which used to be with the state VAT departments. Now central government has that information. So it wants the information from income tax also, whether the persons are filing same income tax on returns on the basis of same data to the income tax department and to the GST department. You might have come across the news clippings where a lot of thousands of crores of fake invoices were being raised in GST, whether those persons are income tax return filers or not. So what I want to highlight is the purpose of the present TDS and TCS provision is not collection of tax at all. It's not. 0.1% means it's the purpose is not collection of tax. Purpose is receiving the information as to who is in receiving, who is issuing what invoices. So please mind, here they want the collection of information and how it could be collected through TCS and TDS. आप देखिए TDS काटेंगे या TCS काटेंगे तो क्या होने वाला है. अगर आपने कोई बैक डेट में इनवॉइस रेज करने की या लेने की कोशिश करी, you are going to be caught. Because if you link the issuance, trading transaction, or link the issuance of invoices and receiving of invoices through TDS and TCS, now every backdating is going to be caught. Now that is the purpose, because every month the information would flow through the tax department who has issued invoices of large amounts in favor of whom, and with complete GST and complete identity of the assessee, that information. Department is not interested in tax collection. It wants to have that big information, big data, on the basis of which it can analyze if there is a fake issuance of invoice, then, and that person is not filing tax return. You might have seen that information would go separately from this TDS and TCS. Why? Because if a person is not filing income tax return and you have transaction worth more than 50 lakhs with that person, then there will be a higher rate of TDS or TCS in such cases instead of 0.1%. So that information would be red flagged automatically. You will yourself red flag that information and will give to the department that I am purchasing or selling the goods, or I am entering into the transaction with those persons who are not filing their tax returns or who do not have their PAN numbers. And once that information is passed on, the department knows how to use that information and how to catch hold of you and also the supplier. So purpose is to reconcile the information, to see whether there is the information with the GST and income tax are in sync. What are the red flags? Now that is a purpose. With that, I'll get back to you in a moment. And before that, let us understand these provisions, the new provisions with Nikki, as to when we have to deduct the tax at source and when the tax collection has to be there. Purpose, I have already told you, the purpose is not tax collection or mobilizing the tax revenue. Purpose is not widening the tax base. Purpose is collection of information so that what they can do, they can pop up the information on your email. They can give the information to your email and you can be prompted for the self-compliance, because now the department wants that should not be required to chase you. You should be prompted. If you know that this information is going to the department, you'll be filing an honest return to the tax department, and that is the purpose. Yes, Nikki, please explain the provisions.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So, thank you, Sanjay sir. Now I'll start with the provisions of the new TDS and TCS provisions. First of all, to start with this section 194Q, which is TDS on payment for purchase of goods. This has been introduced by the budget 2021, and this is into effect from 1st July 2021. So let's just first understand what is the provision about and what is the applicability. So herein the buyer has to deduct the TDS of seller subject to certain conditions. So if buyer has a turnover of rupees 10 crore from business carried on by him during the immediately preceding financial year, and he purchases any goods from a seller and the transaction value with the seller is more than 50 lakh rupees, then he has to deduct tax at source at the rate of 0.1%. Please note herein the turnover or the gross receipts that have to be aggregated are from business. Also, this means that as you have to check the limit for preceding financial year, this means that if you are in your year of incorporation, it is your first year of business, then this provision shall not be applicable. Now, as already told, the rate of TDS is 0.1% if PAN has been furnished by the seller. However, if PAN is not furnished, then higher rate of 5% shall apply. And when is the incidence to deduct this tax at source? It is like all other TDS provisions, which is date of payment or credit, whichever is earlier. However, one difference that I would like to highlight here is in other TDS provisions, if the receiver of income wants that some lower or nil deduction of tax may be done, then he can apply to the authorities. However, for 194Q, this benefit has not been provided. Now, moving on to, this is the basic conditions I have discussed. Now, when is this provision not applicable? So earlier, there have been a lot of queries that have been raised on which transactions it is applicable or not. So let's see. As I already told, it's for goods, so it is not applicable on services. Further, while recent clarification by the board, it is not applicable on securities or commodities that are through recognized stock exchanges. Also, some electricity, for purchase of electricity, if you are paying something, then also it's not applicable. But for securities, you must note that for listed securities, it is not applicable. For unlisted securities, if you are doing some transactions of purchase or sale of securities that are unlisted, then this provision might come into picture. Further, herein, the language of the provision is buyer. Buyer, if pays something to the seller, then he has to deduct tax at source. So earlier there was a confusion like whether all the non-resident buyers also who are residing outside India, they will also come into this provision because residency condition was not put into. However, that board has come up here and it has helped us that only those buyers will be covered, non-resident buyers, wherein they have a PE in India. Other non-resident buyers will not be covered. Further, it has been clarified that if the income of the seller is exempt from tax, like you can see some charitable institutions wherein you are making the payment, in those particular cases, this section shall not apply. And the most important case where this section will not apply is where it is covered under other TDS provisions. For example, in case of section 194C, wherever you are deducting TDS for contracts, therein also this provision may come into picture, but this will not apply therein. That has been provided under the section. Or if on the same transaction any TCS is collected, then also this section should not apply. Now afterwards, now what is the controversy is because earlier in October 2020, a tax collection provision TCS was introduced, and therein it was provided that on receipt of consideration for sale of goods, tax shall be collected at source. So before I'll discuss the interplay between both the sections, I would like to also highlight the provisions herein. This provision is applicable from 1st October 2020. The conditions are same. Herein, if the seller is having turnover of rupees 10 crore or more, the transaction with the buyer is exceeding 50 lakh rupees, the seller has to collect the tax at source while receiving the consideration for sale of goods. So both the provisions are overlapping in this sense that both the provisions attract tax collection or tax deduction on purchase or sale of goods. And the rate herein is also 0.1%, and higher rate of TDS shall apply if PAN not furnished. And the tax incidence is at the time of receipt of consideration for sales. Now, if this provision is specifically coming into picture the interplay comes into picture. Like whenever there is a buyer and there is a seller, both are entering into transaction of purchase or sale of goods. The question now which arises and which is also a practical difficulty is which provision shall apply, whether the buyer has to deduct tax or whether the seller has to collect tax. So to help understand the situations herein, I have put in on case-to-case basis wherein which section shall apply. So wherever the buyer, let's assume there is a buyer and there is a seller. If the turnover of the buyer is less than 10 crore and the turnover of the seller is less than 10 crore, then both the sections shall not apply. Please note herein they are actually trying to cover the high value transactions, and also they are trying to cover those persons who can actually take in that compliance burden. So if I quote the actual intention of this section, they have clearly mentioned that to ensure that the compliance burden is only on those who can comply with it, these limits of 10 crores have been provided. So if you are a buyer having less than 10 crore turnover or a seller, then both the sections shall not apply and you are free to not to comply with any of the sections. However, where buyer's turnover is less than 10 crore but seller's turnover is greater than 10 crore, then TDS under 194Q will not apply, but TCS has to be collected by the seller on the transaction subject to the limit of rupees 50 lakhs, transaction limit with the buyer. Wherein vice versa, if buyer's turnover is greater and seller's turnover is less, then buyer has to deduct tax at source. However, wherein now the conflict between the two sections arises, wherein in both the cases the turnover is greater than 10 crore, that is of the buyer as well and of the seller as well, and then the practical problem arises that which section shall actually apply. So in this particular case, the board has come to a rescue and they have actually clarified the position that wherever the, also it was clarified by law also. However, they have again reiterated that position wherever both the sections are coming into picture, then the prime responsibility is on the buyer to deduct TDS, and once the buyer has deducted TDS on the consideration amount, then the seller will be exempted from the applicability of TCS. So it is very clear that only one section will apply. It is not possible that both sections will apply. However, they have also come up with the clarification that if, for example, the buyer has not deducted the TDS, but the TCS has been collected on such amount in the transaction where both the sections are applicable, then buyer shall also may not deduct TDS and it shall be exempted from the responsibility. So vice versa situation is there. Only one section shall be applicable in this transaction of purchase or sale of goods. Now, moving on to, so this was all about the turnover limit and the relevant clarifications. Now the question arises and the practical difficulty arises that how this limit of rupees 50 lakh is to be computed under 194Q, because the section is applicable from 1st July 2021. It has come into force from 1st July 2021. However, the 50 lakh limit is to be calculated for the entire financial year. So in this case, I will explain this with the help of an example. So what has to be done? The 50 lakh limit has to be computed for the entire year. You have to count the purchases from 1st April 21 till 31st March 22. However, all those transactions wherein payment has been made before 1st July 2021 or credit of that amount has also been made before 1st July 2021, that shall be exempt from the applicability of this section and no TDS provision shall be applicable on the same. So let's understand this with the help of an example. If the purchase before 1st July was 49 lakh and after 1st July it is 15 lakh, so this transaction of 49 lakh will be entirely exempt from tax. However, if you compute the aggregate purchases, that is 64 lakh. So 64 lakh minus 50 lakh, which is the limit, your transaction that shall be subject to tax deduction will be 14 lakh only, right? Then coming on to next example, wherein for purchases before 1st July was 56 lakh and after that it was 11 lakh. So aggregate purchases shall be 67 lakh. Now, if you see, because the 50 lakh limit has already been crossed before 1st July, whether TDS was required to be deducted on this 6 lakh, it was clarified that no, this entire transaction will be out of the ambit of TDS, and only because 50 lakh limit was itself breached before 1st July. Now, whatever purchases you are making after 1st July, that shall be subject to tax at source, and accordingly, as mentioned, only on the amount of 11 lakh rupees, TDS shall apply. Similarly, the last case wherein we can assume an example wherein 50 lakh was breached before 1st July, that transaction itself is not subject to TDS. However, if after 1st July even 1 rupee purchase is made because 50 lakh has crossed, now that transaction of 1 rupees or more will be subject to tax at source. So herein what we have to actually keep in mind is all the transactions before 1st July are exempt from TDS, but 50 lakh limit has to be computed for the entire year. Now, a lot of practical difficulty arises on account of GST component. How this GST component, which is charged on the invoices, has to be taken care of while deducting tax at source. So the board has clarified clearly that whatever GST amount has been mentioned on the invoice, you have to deduct that amount and you have to deduct tax only on the purchase value. However, wherein you are making any advance payment, therein you don't have.
So deductions are to be made on the amount which is exclusive of GST without GST amount.
Yes, yes. So yes, and however, wherein you haven't received any invoice, so as already told, the TDS is on payment or credit, whichever is earlier. So wherein you are making any advance payment, so therein the department has clarified that because the advance payment you cannot bifurcate how much amount of GST will be there, and there can be a situation wherein multiple rated goods are supplied by the supplier. So in that case, don't deduct the GST amount, deduct TDS on the entire transaction amount including GST. However, herein what can be helped and what can be a strategy that can be applied by the business houses is wherever you are making any advance payment, you can ask for a pro forma invoice from the seller mentioning the amount towards purchase of goods and GST separately. And if you are then deducting TDS on the basis of that pro forma invoice, then you can exclude the GST amount and deduct only on the amount of purchase of goods. So this is what you can apply, so that what happens actually is, what practical problem we face is, let's say on the advance amount you are deducting on the entire amount without excluding GST. What happens at the year end, your entire turnover is aggregated and then TDS on that turnover is matched by the department, and while processing your return of income they may send you an intimation saying there is a mismatch because turnover in ITR is exclusive of GST. So they can say there is a mismatch, you have underreported your turnover. So in order to avoid such a situation, while making payment of advances, we are of the suggestion that you should ask for a pro forma invoice and deduct TDS on excluding the GST amount only on the value of purchase of goods. However, in TCS, because under TCS, the tax collection is on receipt of sale in consideration, therein the department has clarified that because consideration also includes the GST amount, so no adjustment has to be required to be done for GST, and you have to collect tax at source on the entire amount. Now, this is an important thing that I would like to highlight. So wherever you are deducting TDS or collecting TCS, that have to be obviously reported in TDS returns and all the compliances have to be made. However, recently the income tax rules have been amended and therein they have provided that wherever you are not deducting TDS under 194Q on account of deduction under any other section or on account of collection of tax under any other section, then that has to be also reported under TDS returns. What information you have to furnish therein? All the deductee pays wise breakup, their PAN, their payment credit, total tax deducted and deposited, and reason for non-deduction. So now the business houses, they have to, apart from analyzing the applicability of this TDS section and making the compliances, they have to also do this additional compliances wherein they are not actually deducting tax under this section but under any other section. So for this, you have to actually do a proper compliance check. Like each business house, 1st July, this provision has become applicable. You have to actually do a proper compliance check of all your TDS things and then report accordingly. So this has to be also kept in mind. Now, there is one more provision which I would like to discuss briefly is from 1st July, there is another provision which has been become applicable wherein higher rates of TDS or TDS shall apply for non-filers of IT return. How they have defined this, that if you are making payment to anyone on which tax is required to be deducted at source except 192 like the salary payments to a specified person, and specified person has been defined, if that payment is done to a specified person, then higher rate of TDS shall apply. Now, who is the specified person? That is important. Who has not filed ITR for immediately 2 previous years, and the aggregate TDS and TCS amount of such person in each of these previous years is rupees 50,000 or more. So now when you see like this is just an example to show wherein higher rate of TDS shall apply. So wherein a person has not filed for both the years, he'll fall within the definition of specified person. However, if he has filed even for one of the previous years, then he will not be treated to be a specified person and normal rate of TDS shall apply. So there is only one case wherein return for both the years have not been filed. Now a businessman may, a question may creep into his mind that yes, you have provided me TDS and there are certain rates provided in the sections. I have to deduct tax at source under those sections, that is fine. But now you are wanting me to check whether to the payee whom I am making the payment, whether that person has filed TDS return, whether that person has filed ITRs or not. And then I have to determine the rate and deduct tax accordingly. So this appears to be a very, very tedious exercise. So when this provision came, it was actually criticized, and it was a very cumbersome exercise of taking declaration from all the payees whether they have filed that tax returns or not in the previous years. However, herein the department has come to a rescue and it has been very helpful in such manner that they have actually provided for a utility for you to check whether a person to whom you are making the payment is a specified person or not. So I have mentioned here, there is a portal incometax.gov.in, therein you have to register through your TAN, register for compliance check, and after that you will receive your credentials and you come on to the reporting portal. Therein you have two things, single PAN check and bulk PAN check. So what to whomsoever you are making the payment, therein single PAN search is there, and the portal will itself tell you whether that person is a specified person or not. The answer is in simply yes or no. You don't have to see whether that person has filed ITR or not. Income tax has been very kind in that way that they have provided for this check. However, for bulk PAN check, there is a CSV template that has been uploaded. You have to download it. You have to then mention the PAN numbers to whom you are making that payment, upload it, and in Excel you will get a proper data that these persons are specified persons or not, and you may deduct the tax accordingly. This functionality has been provided and is in force, and for bulk PAN check you have 10,000 people who can do that. Yeah, so that's it regarding the deliberation for the provisions. Over to you, Ravi ji.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you so much. Firstly, Sanjay ji ने बहुत बड़ा relief दिया, so it is not because of collecting taxes, it's because of collecting data, right? So probably people like Paytm give you discount coupons and, payback thanks to collect data. Maybe the government starts giving us some, like scratch cards or cashback things to, collect the data from us. So it might be better than collecting 0.1%. I don't know. I'm just trying to understand a question. Ki agar data or the importance of the authenticity is important, right? Why make it complicated? Ki TCS, TDS, whatever. Any transaction somebody has to pay 0.1% or whatever it is. That's clear, right? Why is it like 2 years and this year and that TDS filing and specified person? Why is it made so complicated?
See, Raviji, you must understand one thing, that department gets the data only through the compliances by the taxpayers. So unless there are transaction-wise mandatory compliances, it looks complicated, but it is not. You will find that after 6 months, you are not required to see what are the provisions. Your persons would be able to do it. It is only for the tax dodgers that the things would become very difficult, because if transaction-wise tracking of everything is there, we are in the world now, Raviji, where soon, very soon, in GST, it has already started that auto-populated figures of your turnover are being given by the department, that according to us, this is your return. Now you want to correct it, you correct it, but we have this information. Now, same thing would start in income tax. They would prepare your return and would give it to you. That according to us, this is your return. And in times to come, in 1 or 2 years, same thing would come. Your banker would give you auto-populated balance sheet. You have these transactions. Every credit and debit of the bank would be linked to GST, income tax, and your other data. And they will prepare your balance sheet. This is your outstanding. This is your data, which is 6 months old. Dr. Ravi, you should worry for this, because you are not recovered for this for last 1 year. And this is your credit. This is your debit. This is your balance. You are not spending enough for your household. You have not withdrawn anything. You have not gone to any hotel. What are you doing? This is all going to happen. And this would give, I will share with you a very important data, that this thing is already experimented. And it's not that India is experimenting now. There is if you Google it, when big data, this kind of thing was implemented in UK for last couple of years, this collection of information and big data, their tax revenues jumped by $5.4 billion. So you will see, if you are worried, if you know that my every information is being dragged, and then when you sit to prepare your balance sheet and income tax return, you'll say, whatever it is there, file it. I don't want to take any chances, because I would like to make myself compliances. So that is the reason, that is the purpose.
So I have a question for Dr. Tripathi. Under the TCS, what happens when you sell on credit, right? I mean, you have made an invoice, you are selling on credit, you are adding the TCS amount to the invoice, and there's an additional amount being given on credit. Now, suppose the buyer doesn't pay, the liability of the seller is to pay the taxes, right? So is there a provision to take care of that?
No, as such, there is no provision to take care of that as of now.
So eventually the seller, apart from losing his money, whatever he's losing, right, in terms of not collecting from the debtor, he also loses on the TCS, which he has, he has to pay to the government.
Yes.
Even though it's a smaller amount, but eventually it can become a very, very big amount.
That is why these amounts have been kept at 0.1%. That is the basis for that. That we should be able to generate information, as Sanjay ji was able to tell, that we want more and more information.
Dr. Ravi, you feel that it is your loss. I feel that it is your gain. Why? Because always the honest taxpayers subsidize dishonest.
Okay.
If the dishonest go away, because of them, your rate is higher. If everyone is caught, if that person is caught because of you, because you have collected TCS and that person is caught, your tax rate would become ultimately lower, because tax budget of the country is, what they can do with the public revenues and public expenditure is limited. So All this would definitely benefit the honest taxpayers in 3 or 4 years. You will see that you will be very happy that, okay, you will otherwise not concealing this information. It is good that it happened and more people started paying tax, and tax revenues are now bumped up and I need to pay low taxes.
So tax revenue is okay, but eventually there's a transaction loss, people. So 0.1 of course is very small, but eventually it can,
So
for a
that's
bad
what I'm
debt.
saying. If there is a loss of 1 lakh rupees to you and there is a gain of 5 lakh rupees to you because of this strategy of the risk management strategy of the department, that your taxes are reduced by 5 lakhs, then you'll be gainer. Then okay, in 1,000 transactions, if I've lost 1 lakh, it's fine.
No, thank you so much. I have got a lot of questions. People are sending on the direct message as well. Another question to Dr. Tripathi. Does that mean that 26 AS will be the most important document now, since all the updates of TDS, TCS, GSTN would be coming there?
Yes, it is already very important. Now, if you log into the e-filing website, which I did yesterday only, I was able to see all my tax credits, all AIR information, and even the saving bank account money, interest, everything is there. It's already there.
Okay. So another question is about somebody asked a question about how to address the issue of purchase returns and cancellation of advance paid. So somebody has given a sale and then the sales get returned, right? Does it again swap out for that?
There is a circular about it on just this 30th circular has been brought out, and that clarifies this issue that if there is a purchase return, then you can set it off against the future goods, and otherwise you can also set it off for future sale.
Okay. Interestingly, with this compliance thing which Nikki has shared, I think the original concerns as an entrepreneur are, I think almost like 7-8 questions which were there are settled now, right? Because I remember for the last 1 month, you were getting emails from the bigger corporates to sign a declaration, right? Now answering and signing a declaration key, whether we have filed an ITR or not, it's like a privacy issue, in terms of business secrecy, whether my turnover is more than 10 crores or, those were issues which were very critical. I have a question for Sanjay ji. In terms of when we say services are out of this purview, right? So what happens to invoice discounting, factoring? Because if somebody is discounting an invoice or factoring, that's goods, of course, right?
No, if it is, see, there could be, if it is purchase and sale of goods only, that would cover. Discounting would not come into this.
No, what I'm saying is the payment. So, for example, I'm a NBFC and we discount invoices or we do factoring, right?
Yes.
So eventually the buyer will make the payment to us for the invoices, right?
Right.
So will he be doing?
Yes, still it is to be done because you are in a representative capacity here.
So will he be deducting the TDS for us as an NBFC or for the seller?
It depends upon your documents. If the documents if you are their agent only and they are the principal, then it has to be deducted of the principal. Whereas if you become the principal as per your document, then it will be deducted from your account.
Okay. And what happens to the branch transfer? Does it also come into this purview?
No, branch, because it is person. What the term which they have used is person. So it's unlike GST. In GST, your every registration is a separate person. This is income tax, where throughout the country you may have 20 branches, still you are one person. So for branch transfers, it will not be attractive.
So there's a question to Mr. Tripathi. This is the question here they're asking. Can we raise a separate monthly invoice or debit note instead of putting this on the invoice itself for the TCS? Do we add on the invoice or can we raise it at the month end with the debit note?
I am not familiar with this. Actually, it is yet to come into picture. So I think those who have operated the software will be able to tell that.
Sanjay, can you guide on that?
Even if it is raised through a separate invoice or a debit note, it is fine.
Once a month it can be done, because if there are many multiple transactions.
That is fine. That is fine.
Perfect. Okay.
Because ultimately it's not part of your GST. So even in invoice, if you don't include that collection amount, mentioning collection amount separately is necessary. So whether you mention in the invoice or you mention through debit note, that is fine. Department is concerned with the information.
Okay. Thank you. So we've got a lot of questions on the chat box as well. what if the transaction is more than a specified limit and the person has purchased goods for other than business purposes?
Yeah, obviously there is some ambiguity when we read the section. It is mentioned that purchase of goods. It is not mentioned purchase of goods connected with business. However, in this slide, we are of this view that only the goods which are purchased for business purposes, only on those transactions TDS is to be deducted, not on for like you're going for purchasing some investment purpose or personal purpose, but all things related with business, including capital goods also,
Okay.
not only stock. Yeah.
TCS
Maybe
only on.
clarification would come, but as of now, we would like that, because if it is a TDS or TCS provision, take a conservative view. If it is required to be deducted, please deduct it, because 0.1% does not matter. They want collection of the information. So all kind of goods.
It's better to be safe. Okay. There's a question: if we are making a TDS for a new client whose TDS amount exceeds 50,000 in this year, and if he has not filed his return in the previous year, whether we need to deduct a TDS as per this new section? I don't think this is Nikki. Can you answer this question?
Yeah, so we have to, like, if this section is applicable, then you have to deduct TDS, and also at a higher rate. That I already discussed. At a higher rate, you have to deduct TDS only if it comes within the purview of this section. However, please note, for non-filers of income tax return, what I have discussed is with respect to all the TDS provisions, not only ones which I have discussed. So also for services and everything, if the person is a non-filer in previous years, then also higher rate shall apply.
There's a query: all buyers and sellers asking for declaration of turnover and IT returns. Is it compliance? Can't it be taken from it? I think this is answered now, right? I mean, with the new thing in place, this should not be required, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I received.
Dr. Ravi, you have to advise all your TiE members who are in business that they should take steps to amend their softwares. You know, when they are processing the software, that would be immediately needed. Whosoever is have implemented customized softwares, they need to be changed.
I was coming on that. Even apart from customized, even the standalone software like Tally and all, they have not incorporated these changes till now.
Yes.
But I spoke to Tally people and they said they will be doing it very shortly.
They are already working on it, and it should be out by 15th of July. So far as Tally is concerned. But
Okay.
It is the problem with the customized softwares, because they have to take individual steps. You have to advise your members to do that.
So there's a query
regarding just 1 second. Regarding the query regarding business and non-business, it has been clarified by the board, and they have stated here very clearly that the sales or gross receipt or turnover from business carried on by him must exceed 10 crore. His turnover on receipt from non-business activity is not to be counted for this.
Sir, just to clarify, so far as turnover is concerned, it is of business. But the query was, this language of the law does not say which goods, whether goods of business or goods purchased at home. Once your turnover exceeds the specified limit, then all goods are covered. So that was the question.
there's a question: we are into transport business and we purchase diesel from regular pumps. Do we have to collect TCS? The amount is more than 50 lakhs? No. Yeah.
So, no, particularly for this is not there. Also, for petroleum products, there has been one writ challenges section also filed in the Kerala High Court. So they have got some stay that I can share with the people. But for currently, everything which covers in goods, tax has to be deducted or collected.
Somebody asked a question about the IDFC bond, so it's not, I don't think it's relevant right now. Let me just, there's one more question. If say because of collecting 0.1% taxes, many assessments are caught evident taxes. What is that? Last question, I couldn't get it. So what about the new customers added during the year? Does this declaration become part of that basic? Is it added to them also, the deduction part? Because they would not be reflecting to the utility which the department shared at the beginning of the year, right?
Right. For you are saying for the new customers, for non-filers of IT returns, you
So
are
my
asking?
question, I'll reframe my question.
Yeah.
The person has applied for a new PAN number, so he doesn't have a history of the PAN in terms of TDS or whatever it is, right? He's applied for a PAN in the month of June or whatever it is, July, and he comes to us, buys more than 50 lakh rupees, right? So what do we do? Do we deduct or not?
Yes, we have to deduct, particularly because he has not filed his returns of income and no clarification is there till now. So we have to deduct, yes.
At a higher rate?
Yes, at a higher rate. Yes.
Oh, that is very important.
Yeah.
So and how do we know? So basically, if you go and check up in the utility, we do not find his PAN number. So automatically the only option is to deduct at a higher rate. That's the simplest thing.
That's the simplest thing. Practically, we have to do that. And I think the utility will also show yes. The specified person, it will show yes.
So, but that's a bigger challenge for people who are coming up, maybe somebody applying for a new PAN and he would not be coming in that list, right? So Sanjay ji, would you like to answer that thing? How will people manage the business then?
No, see, there has to be more and more coordination between buyer and seller now. You have to talk to the buyer about, when you are placing the order and when the transaction starts, at that time itself, I would suggest that there should be exchange of PAN numbers and whether you are falling in that utility, because now that party would also know the same information. So more coordination would be required, particularly where there'll be interplay of TDS and TCS. Who will deduct? You can set up a mechanism between yourself. Setting up of profile of a new seller or new buyer would require you whether the buyer would like to deduct or seller would like to deduct. You have to do all that exercise now.
Yeah, the KYC becomes most important thing right now.
You can say you can set up the profile for a new relationship every time, that whether he has PAN, like you are doing KYC, whether he has PAN, he's a filer, non-filer. You can choose that. Suppose you have to consider this from the point of view of selecting one buyer out of 3. You can select इसमें 5% वाला इसको छोड़ दो. क्यों complication में पढ़ना मैं इस 1% वाले को. When the rates are same, that would act as one of the parameters so far as setting up of relationship is concerned.
Right. A question of Dr. Tripathi, it has whether lower deduction benefit is available to a seller who may not practically have any income chargeable to tax?
Actually, lower reduction means it can't be less than 0.1%. So to say that lower deduction should be applicable, that will be difficult. Only thing is that it can be exempt. So for that, there is no clarity because if anybody is exempt, then they should, I think, make a representation to the board or something that if his income is not taxable, then whether he should be charged or not. But as such, there is nothing like lower deduction in 194Q.
But then, yeah, sorry. Charitable institutions like 11 section under section 11 and 12, how will the buyer?
They have been exempt. They have been exempt, but again, no form has been brought in for them. So I think again we should try to. I think we will have to make a representation or something that some kind of a form should be there, or they should be registered, and they can show it to their buyer that we are an exempt institution, so that they should not be charged.
Right. So what about the real estate? Will that be also included into this sale of goods as or not? No.
They are out of the definition of goods itself. Goods has to be movable. Immovables are all out of real estate. If you know that goods have been brought under TDS for the first time, real estate was already under TDS.
Yeah, the earlier. Yeah.
Services were already under TDS. Only the goods were not there because all traders were having the government was not having the information about the traders because they were on state state VAT portals. Now the government has the information about all traders also, because there is now central GST portal. So this information would be relevant only now because they can match the income tax and GST information. They have the state-wise GST information also.
So just before signing off, can you
just one more small thing for a buyer who is just registered. For them, it is not compulsory to deduct any TCS because the condition is that their turnover should be more than 10 crores in the previous year. So since they are just registered, so they do not meet this basic criteria of 10 crores. So for them, deduction will not be.
Okay. So that way it's corrected. Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much. So
it has been clarified. Means this new circular number 13 of 2021. It has recently come on 30th June itself. Means just 6-7 days back. So by going through it, I think most of the things can be clarified, and they have almost clarified each and every question.
So will this not discourage new sellers by the buyers? There's all these provisions, buyer sellers might not want to have unknown buyers or people who are not known to them.
If they are tax compliant, then there's nothing to worry about it. You just have to give your PAN and 0.1% will be deducted, which you can claim.
So
So
Sanjay, one simple cheat sheet for the entrepreneurs. Simple cheat sheet, how to manage this. How can the entrepreneurs, the businessmen just control this, or what is a single message from you?
See, when you are already managing more complicated things than this, I would say business is 200 times more complicated than this is the compliance, where you need just a 25,000 salary person to manage all this. You don't need this. The persons who want to make adjustments, who want to, on 31st March, when they have huge profit and they want to take a bill, maybe in the date of January, for them it is going to be, life changing. For the others, it is a matter of keeping one more competent compliance officer in the company. It is just that. It's not more than that.
Maybe we'll find online services for the compliance as well. I mean, there should be new things.
Dr. Ravi, they are already available.
Yeah.
You have the people, you have the companies where you upload all your transactions and they will give you a trial balance. The complete accounting services at the back office are available. You are not required to keep your every voucher has to be you have to keep a clerk who mails every check and every voucher to that domain. And you get trial balance at the end of the day at your mobile app. The services are already there.
Wow. I will ask somebody to share that. Nikki, please share some of the services we can share with the member as well. Right. Thank you so much. Sanjay ji, I'll get Sheenu. Sheenu, can you come online, please?
Yes, sure. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
for the vote
absolutely.
of thanks.
Yes.
Over to you.
Right. Dr. Vedanshu Tripathi. First of all, let me introduce myself. I am Sheenu Jhawar and I'm a charter member of TiE Rajasthan. Dr. Vedanshu Tripathi, Mr. Sanjay Jhawarji, and Ms. Nikki Jamtani, thank you so much for bringing clarity on this subject. Because what happens is the moment you mention taxation, it creates a lot of anxiety. I think because as a business owner, you want to know how any change is going to impact your forecasts and your business plans. And in any case, the moment there is a change to taxation policies, you're also in a state of confusion and you want to avoid that. So even though this was only an hour-long session, but there has been a lot of clarity brought on the subject. And as Mr. Sanjay Jhawarji rightly said, there are lots of people to take care of this in our businesses. And I think those people who want to make adjustments need to be worried. But if you're following the right protocols for taxation, then I think this is just a changeover that we all have to get accustomed to. Formally and officially, on behalf of TiE Lucknow, TiE Surat, and TiE UP, apart from TiE Rajasthan, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.